Hey church, good to see y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I was reading in Matthew 8 earlier today, and just kind of got struck by something that I thought was interesting, something I think would help you, something that would encourage you. It definitely encouraged me. The disciples and Jesus are in a boat right now, and it says that in verse 23 that he, being Jesus, got into the boat with his disciples. And suddenly a furious storm came upon the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." He replied, "You have little faith. Why are you so afraid?" Then he got up, and he rebuked the winds and the waves, because the winds and the waves had interrupted his nap. I totally get that. And it says that the men were amazed, and they asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." And what stood out to me about this is the disciples had been with Jesus for some time now, listening to him teach, watching him do certain things, and it just seems that every chapter and every kind of stage of their journey with Jesus, there's always this huge interruption. There's always something that takes place that kind of throws them off, where they're sitting around with 4,000 or 5,000 people and they're going, "Hey, everybody's hungry, what are we going to do?" Or in this particular scenario where they're out on a boat, and all of a sudden this storm comes upon them, and they're thinking, we're sitting with God, like there's no way that this is actually going to happen to us, but it does happen to them. And there's just constant frustrations, and there's constant interruptions going on in their lives, and they have to be thinking, certainly we're with the only person in the world where this type of stuff, where normal everyday frustrations of life, certainly we're with the guy where those things won't bother us. And yet, in the disciples' lives, they still experience those things. And actually, they probably experience those things more than just about anybody else. And they were sitting with Jesus. What's even more interesting about that is that it seems that in those times where they were experiencing some of the frustrations and the interruptions of life, it seems that in those times they actually learned more about the character and nature and power of God than they ever did when they were just sitting on a mountainside listening to him teach. And that was just encouraging to me, because it's encouraging to know that in the interruptions of life, the fact that you can be driving and then all of a sudden you get in a car wreck and then you have to deal with that, or you're going through life and then someone gets sick or someone dies that you loved. And there are just interruptions where your kids go to school and everything's fine, but they come back and maybe they made bad grades, or they got in trouble, or something happened. And I think we just deal with those things relationally, where things in our relationships go from really fine to all of a sudden there's something difficult that we have to manage through, something we have to work through. And we just deal with the normal everyday interruptions in our lives, and it can be discouraging to think that we're Christians, we're following Jesus. Certainly following Jesus is going to be this journey where, yeah, we experience some trial, but we have something a little different. And the disciples definitely must have felt that way, and yet their life was filled with interruptions. And what's encouraging, and what I want to be encouraging for you, is that in those times, those aren't just normal everyday times, they aren't just times to be wasted. It's actually a time where I think, and the Bible testifies to the fact that we can actually learn more about the character of God, the power of God, and the majesty and love of God in our lives in those times than we can in other areas.